for my fair value estimates, there's upside for the Korean banks, and there's overall for the Japanese banks, there's not upside. I did raise my fair value somewhat this year, but it wasn't about the net interest margins. I don't expect any change in the net interest margins. In fact, as far as I forecast for Japan. But it was just that in Japan, the dividend normalization happened faster. And for Japan, the dividend normalization for banks meant not that dividends would be reduced, but rather that the Japanese banks are all back now to a trend of increasing dividends every year. So that's, that's been a bit of a positive for the Japanese banks. But fundamentally, the net interest margins are there's no outlook for any increase. And we're really just looking at how they can better move, cut costs and deploy capital. One thing that was quite surprising for me, and it changed one bank's outlook, was Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank came out with a policy that they're going to reduce their cross shareholdings, equity holdings of other Japanese corporates to zero, which is it's actually a very major move and a shocking move in Japan. And that certainly makes me bullish on that stock, and I think that should help dividend growth, even if the fundamentals for Japanese banks remain poor, as I expect.
How bullish? I mean, because of that asset base and the cross holdings being cut?
So for Sumitomo Mitsui Trust, my fair value estimate, I believe, is 4,500 yen. So it should be about maybe 18% above. I would need to check how it's trading today. But, it's compared to previously, I hadn't seen any upside at all for those shares. So that, and that's it's really a kind of signaling. It doesn't mean that Sumitomo Mitsui Trust is going to normalize, get rid of its equity holdings in 2 or 3 years completely. What it means is it's just a statement of commitment, but it will mean an accelerated pace of sales. And I think a lot of the bullishness there is for that stock, but then also it really does put pressure on the other banks to, so as that they're not falling behind in terms of corporate governance.